Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Council. This is the 14th meeting of the 142nd Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas on a snowy couple of days in April. For one, hopefully I have your support in saying that should be the last. Welcome to Council tonight. And the first thing we'll do is ask about disclosures of interest. Any disclosures of interest from any of the members? Seeing none. Minutes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a motion that the minutes of the meetings held on April the 11th, 2022 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next order of business are presentations. Presentation this evening is City Council's acknowledgement of Chief Ray Ormerod.
If I could ask the Chief to come to the podium. Chief, we've been waiting a few months to be able to have people in this council chambers and be able to start recognizing those that have done huge deeds for the City of St. Thomas. We didn't figure we could start anywhere but with you. We recognized during a time when you'd already been hired by Central Elgin and we needed a chief. You were able to pull both duties and do it for us and keep our fire service in great shape while you started your job at Central Elgin. St. Thomas owes you a debt of gratitude. We personally owe you a debt of gratitude for what you were able to do for us. So as the first that we recognize of a number that did great service for our community or great deeds for our community, we recognize Ray Ormerod for what he has done for the City of St. Thomas. And Ray, I'd like to present you this folder. Simply never saying enough, but saying thank you for your leadership and what you're able to do for us. If I could just, if we want to take a picture in the middle of the tent. We were going to get you like a fire truck or a car or something. No, I've got it. So not everybody has.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Would you like to say a few words?
I would, if you don't mind.
Can you go to the podium now? We'll make that work for you. You know what button to push? Perfect.
Your Worship, members of council, directors, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I am very honored to receive this certificate of appreciation. I know that my tenure here was short as the interim chief to assist the city, and I am hopeful that it worked out well for not only the citizens of St. Thomas, but council as a whole and the fire service as well. So once again, thank you very much for this great honor. I appreciate that.
Your Worship, Council will now resolve itself into Committee of the Whole to deal with the following business. First committee this evening is Strategic Direction and Development. Couple of notices regarding public meetings to take place via Zoom on April the 28th, 2022 from the Committee of Adjustment. The first one relates to a minor variance for 1025 Talbot Street, and this is to permit 180 parking spaces for a proposed 14-story, 162-unit apartment building, whereas the zoning bylaw would normally require a minimum of 203 parking spots. The second relates to consent to sever, an application for a consent to sever in order to create separate lots for the existing semi-detached dwelling at 26A and 26B Fairview Avenue. No further items under this committee, Your Worship, unless the members have any further items.
Seeing none.
We'll now move into community engagement and services. First item relates to the Next Generation 911 Authority Service Agreement. I have a motion that report STPS 0222 relating to an NG 911 Authority Service Agreement be received for information, and further the council direct that a bylaw be prepared to enter into an agreement with Bell Canada for NG 911 services. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Reimel.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you.
Next item relates to Safe Restart funding requests for a job fair, and this relates to our transit service. A motion that report ADM 1622 relating to the Safe Restart funding request for job fair transit service be received for information, and further that an allocation of $1,000 of Safe Restart funding be approved to support the costs of citywide transit service on Thursday, April 21st, 2022, between the hours of 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? If I can share, it's a quite large job fair at the Elgin Centre, put on by a number of groups, including the Chamber of Commerce and our own Social Services and Employment Services Elgin, and a number of others. And we are hoping to try and place some of the people who are currently not working with some of the jobs that are badly needed to be filled. And we were asked, what if we could help get people to the center? And I said, well, let's see what council says about using some of the transit, blocking off the fare boxes on the transit from noon till 6 on that day to get people back and forth to the event. I think is a low price to pay to try and put that many more people on the employment roll. So further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much.
Your worship, no further items unless there are any from the members.
Seeing none. Moving
to infrastructure and civic operations. A first item relates to the janitorial services contract at various city facilities. I have a motion that report PR 0822 relating to janitorial services at various city facilities be received for information, and further the council accept the tender submitted by Service Master of London for a one-year contract in the annual amount of $380,886.84, including HST, and further the council authorize administration to exercise the renewal options subject to satisfactory performance. Moved by Councillor Burgess, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments? Councillor Reimel.
I just wanted to see, is this a new service, or is this the same service that we've had in the past?
Push the button to turn on your microphone if you could. Figured, yep, that's the one. Good work. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks. Yeah, it's a renewal of an existing service. Yeah.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next item, your worship, relates to Animal Services Center update. I have a motion that report ES 3122 relating to the Animal Services Center update be received for information, and further the council authorized staff to initiate a request for proposal for architectural services using the existing approved funding, and further that the Animal Services Center fundraising initiative be created. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Reimel.
Questions or comments? Councillor Wookey first.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Well, there's good news and there's really good news. And anytime I'll use a bad pun and say that I would like this fundraising campaign to be on a short leash. And I mean that because a donor's given $1 million. And so I don't want no offense to, and like I'd love people to give us more money, but I don't want this to drag on for too long because I'd love this to get going as soon as possible. And I can't express enough my appreciation for this. We've been talking about this for 8 years, and it's badly needed. City growth is badly needed. I know Councillor Reimel has been an advocate for this for 8 years, and wow, that's all I can say. It's great news, but let's get this moving. Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Peters, then Councillor Reimel.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. But just to build on Councillor Wookie's comments, and hope that some of the groups that have been out there supportive of this new initiative, this may inspire them to get going. But how do we just keep this process moving along and not I realize 250,000 is a significant amount of money, but I'd like to see us take in some ways a leap of faith that this is all going to come together with especially now with this generous donation. So I'd like to hear from Justin how we can keep this, not lose momentum.
And I was going to ask Mr. Lawrence exactly the same thing. This report tonight asks us to move quickly with an architect, and that would be the first start to do anyway. And I think we should honor the gift we've been given and move forward with it too. What do you think the timeline looks like if we accept this report tonight?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Absolutely right. The architect is the first step. And so right away, if council is agreeable tonight, then we'll go out and start an estimate of how much exactly the center will cost. At that point, then we can establish a budget. So there is no budget. There is, but it's only 300,000 plus the donation. So we'd have to establish the full budget as the next step, and council would need to approve that.
Okay, Councillor Reimel, you're up next. Do you want me to save you to the end?
Sure.
Okay, then I'm going to Councillor Kohler.
Thanks, Your Worship. I echo the comments of Councillor Peters and Councillor Wilkie. I think we should get this moving as fast as possible. I think the architect is obviously something that needs to be done. And I think as that excitement grows, you'll see more excitement with the fundraising committee. But I agree we need to move forward on this. And at the end of the day, if we have to get the project started, I think we're using either the development reserve, not development charges, but the infrastructure reserve or working reserve to ensure that this building gets going, because this is quite the gift that we have, and certainly don't want to see it lost if we decide to drag our feet on this. I think there's ways that we can get it going. I'd certainly like to see the building start as soon as possible.
Thank you, Councillor Kohler. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I'd just like to remind everyone too that it's a service that we are responsible for and that we have to provide. And I don't think it's fair to attach a rider that the very people that do all the volunteer work to take care of the animals and rescue them and look after them for us need to come up with the funds to do the project. So I'm not sure how we ever arrived at even the figure of a fundraising figure. I don't think we've ever actually agreed on that number. And so I'd like to make sure that's not one of the impediments to this project. We've got a huge donation now. If we get more, as Councillor Wilkie said, that's a good story, even getting greater. But if we don't get that, I think it's still our responsibility. We need to honor that and not let that slow down the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Further questions or comments? Mr. Lawrence, and then Councillor Reimel.
Thanks. There's actually one further step that council could take tonight if you're interested. We looked back in the history back to 2019, and although we talked about the location, we didn't actually, council didn't actually approve the location. So as a step, if you wanted, you could add a resolution tonight. If you're interested, I have some wording. So the and Bill Martin Parkway.
Councillor Baldwin-Sands?
So move.
Okay. Will we do a separate motion, clerk? Yes?
Your worship, we could do a friendly amendment if it's okay with Councillor Wookie and Councillor Reimel.
All right. Okay. It's okay. I see nods. So yes, let's go that way. So now that's our motion for this evening, includes the location and the hiring of an architect and the moving forward. Councillor Reimel, you're up.
Okay. Anyway, this is, I want to say this is a wonderful donation, and it's quite unexpected, actually, such a generous amount. So, and I do have a concern, like we have been fundraising or trying to fundraise for a couple of years. You know, the Environmental Services did a poster for us and on the committee, and we went out and we have been trying to fundraise, and it has been very challenging. So I agree with Councillor Clark when he says, you know, trying to put a number on it. You know, at the skate park, there was supposed to be a fundraising initiative for that, and that was you know, at least a $600,000 cost, and there was no fundraising, you know, and the project still went ahead. The Centennial Ball Field was $1,100,000, and the fundraising was only $70,000, and the project still went ahead. So this is 40% of the fundraising, and I really would like to see the project go forward. My concern is too that you know, as of August 19th, council may not be able to make any decisions, you know, as far as larger items, and a new council comes in, everybody has different priorities. You know, I would hate to see this kind of get on the back burner. So I would like to at least make some firm decision. You know, Justin, you'd mentioned getting a more comprehensive budget. You know, it'd be great to have something so that we could have something back to be able to make a firm. I'd really like to see a firm motion that, you know, this council moves this project forward, and it's a lockdown and it becomes a done deal. So
great idea, Councillor Reimel. Let's ask Mr. Lawrence. Do you believe we can have full budget back while this council can still make that decision?
The day was August 19th. I think we can. I think we can have an estimate, and then what council would essentially be doing is approving a budget. So we'd have to have a couple of councils notice, and then we'd be bringing forward the entire budget.
Okay, so that sounds like that's possible, Councillor Reimel. Let's all everybody poke Mr. Lawrence every day to say, hey, where's that budget you were working on? So,
do we need to add that as an amendment on here just so we lock it down, or no?
I think that's guidance to Mr. Lawrence, and you have his home number. Okay. Further questions or comments? Again, look, a donation of this size to move a project forward, we better not move it forward. This was also been, thank you to Councillor Reimel, in our strategic plan for this council, and it's another one we can check the box on our way into the fall. So thank you all very much. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much.
Your worship, that concludes the items for infrastructure and civic operations, unless there are any further items from the members.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just had a question with regard to the arenas and the ice pads. I know we've got the home show coming up, and not sure whether the ice pad will just be covered or whether the ice is going out, and with just kind of what the long-term plan is over the summer, whether or not what we're going to rent out and what we're not going to rent out. Just an update, please.
Mr. Bray, can you tell us who will be skating this summer?
Thank you, Mayor Preston. We're removing ice out of the B pad, keeping ice in the A pad, and I believe they've started removing the ice. We have bookings, spring bookings up to almost 50 hours a week now for spring ice up to the end of June. When the home show is there, you alluded to it, we do have floorboards that staff will be putting down for the duration of the home show. And we can also start booking, we will have dry land activities in the PPAD. That's where the spring programs and the day camps, they take place there. And if people want to book that, I'm putting this out there now. We're open to suggestions. We have pickleball nets that can be used, floor hockey. So I'm willing to do some dry land programming there. And just so people are aware as well, on the A pad, there's still ice available for July and August.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bray. That's very helpful. Further, Councillor Clark?
Just a supplementary. If you don't get enough, like I'm kind of just wondering what the volume is. Is it cheaper to take the ice out in July and August and put it back in September? Or is it cheaper and more efficient just to leave it, even if you don't get kind of the volume of ice rentals that maybe you're hoping or expecting, you know, that usually get year to year? I know COVID could have a reaction to it where it could slow it down.
Yeah, through the mayor, that's correct. We don't know what's going to happen with the COVID situation. Historically, I've looked into this. They've tried to get 35 hours a week. So we have about 15 now. I'm hopeful that if people see ice is available, they'll start booking. It costs about $10,000 to make ice with all the electrical and water consumption. So I'm going to monitor this and see what our use is. As I said, I'm really happy with the spring bookings, and that hopefully that momentum will carry through. So right now we don't have a plan to remove the ice.
Go ahead, Councillor Clark.
Topic number 2. I just got thinking while we're talking about expediting the dog park, and I was thinking of that property and other properties that we have either surplus or that we're using. Is there a way of expediting the development of trees on some of those properties, so that even though that project might take a couple years to build, that once we've got kind of the general site plan of that project, that you could be planting some trees right away? Or I'm thinking of the space that we have over beside the fire station on the north side. Yep. We have a large vacant field there. Could we not be planting trees around the perimeter, knowing that, depending what the use was in the future, that you'd lose a few, but that we could get a head start on some of these properties with trees growing now, or an urban orchard or whatever?
Yeah. Through the mayor, we typically have a program where we plant, I believe it's about 100 trees a year. And I can see what our locations are this year. And that's a good point, because obviously if you have a dog park, the shade will be an important feature. So we can see and start working towards that. I'll wait till Environmental Services has their site plan confirmed, and we can work in conjunction with them.
Topic 3, Councillor Clark? Okay, you're good. All right. Anyone else? Seeing none.
Your worship, will now move into corporate governance and administration. First item relates to delegation of authority during the restricted acts period for the 2022 municipal election. I have a motion that report CC 0722 relating to the delegation of authority during the 2022 municipal election period be received for information, and further, the council authorize the preparation of a bylaw to delegate financial and hiring dismissal authority to the city manager in the event of a restricted acts period during the 2022 municipal election. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Wookie.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next item relates to community grant applications for the period January to March 2022. I have a motion that report TR 0822 relating to community grant applications from January to March 2022 intake be received for information, and further, that council concur with administration's review of the applications received, and further, that council approves the community grant request from the Rainbow Optimist Club in the amount of $563.10. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Reimel.
Questions or comments? Councillor Kohler.
Thanks, Your Worship. I certainly support the recommendation to give the money to the Optimist Club, but I'd also like to if we could add a friendly amendment that the 3,500 be added to the motion for the Big Brothers Big Sisters. I certainly support staff and the work that they've done this regarding this, but I personally think that this kind of fits our criteria, and I, especially in light of COVID, because they're looking at making a safe, accessible place for their mentors and their kids to meet. It's not something that is, you know, for their normal operating budget. It's a capital request. Over the time that has happened, they've had a hard time meeting requirements with the being safe with COVID. So I certainly think that this would fit in with this, and it's not an ongoing budgeted item. It would be a one-time request, and I'd like to see if we could help move that along and help a great organization doing great work in our community.
Further comments? Councillor Clark?
Just if that was a motion, I would second it. I see it as a bit of an exception to the rule that we have in place. And I agree. I think it's a one-time kind of COVID related issue.
All right. So that gives us a mover and seconder on that portion also. And we had a mover and seconder on the first motion, which was to accept what the Treasury Department had brought to us. Discussion on either. Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? That was for the first or for both?
Your worship, that was for the first one.
Okay. Now on the motion put forward by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Clark. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next item.
Next item relates to surplus lands, existing alignment of Shaw Valley Drive. I have a motion that report ES 3222 and further the council declare part 3, part 9, and part 12 of reference plan 11R 10863 to be surplus to the city, and further the council direct administration to undertake administrative actions to transfer part 3, 9, and 12 of reference plan 11R 10863 to a sole source in accordance with the city's policy for the disposal of surplus land. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Rymo.
Questions or comments? Councillor Wickie.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Maybe I'm overthinking this, and I've spoken, Mr. Pompili and I have spoken, but I want to talk about this publicly. As I understand it, we have already agreed to the change in the roadway, so that would not, this does not affect the actual approved development. And in my mind, I'm thinking we're in no hurry to have to transfer this land to anyone. We have other deferred, frankly, and talk about this another time. But I'd like to know from Mr. Pompili if this is a requirement for the approved development what we've already approved to go forward. If not, I would like to see us talk about this some other time, because I don't think, if we're not in a hurry to do this, then I'm not in a hurry to do this. Thank you.
Mr. Pompili, can you help us with some wisdom on this one?
Certainly, thank you, Your Worship, and through you to council. I'll try to answer as best that I can. Really, I'll just start by the extension of Shaw Valley Drive is a decided matter of council, and as is the extension of services through these roads, through this alignment, to provide services to Central Elgin. And agreements are currently in place. The transfers that are before you today and the resulting surplus land is all a byproduct of the realignment of Shaw Valley Drive. We've issued draft approval. The approval authority has issued draft approval, and council supported that. So that road alignment has been approved. I don't see any purpose for delaying this, the transfer, the land transfer, or the surplus of land. There's really nothing for the municipality to gain. If anything, it's doing that to the detriment of those that the municipality has already entered into an agreement with. So I don't see any value in that.
Okay, a further question, Councillor Wookie, or? Okay, I have Councillor Kohler next.
Thanks, Your Worship. I see that Maria was copied on this letter that we received from the working group, and I'm just wondering, I certainly don't have a problem postponing this, but I think it's time that hopefully we can maybe sit down with the group and address some of these concerns that are in here. I certainly didn't support the high-rise vote, and I would hope that we'd have a chance at the land tribunal. But my fear is if we continue to just try to stifle every last thing that happens in this area, it's only going to show a prejudice against this developer and probably not look very well in front of the tribunal. So I think, you know, to just outright stop everything isn't going to help our case with that. But I would like to see if there's any way that we could quell any of these concerns that are in the letter, because some of the things perception-wise don't look good. And it would just be nice to be able to sit down, talk about some of those if we agree to disagree with staff, but just hedge some of these things out so we don't put ourselves into a corner when it comes to the land tribunal. I'd like to try to see us have an opportunity to possibly win that fight. But if we totally shut this down for this developer here, it's certainly going to paint a bad picture on the city. But I'd certainly like to see if we can discuss some of these things that are addressed in the letter and resolve some of them and put them behind us.
Mr. Pompili, do you want to answer that as we go? Got a couple of other speakers.
I didn't bring my copy up, but yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, I'd welcome an opportunity to provide a response to that letter. There's a lot of comments in that letter that are just not accurate and not fair, frankly, and just a misrepresentation of what's occurred. So I'd welcome that opportunity to provide a staff reply to that letter, and we can submit that through council or directly to the Shaw Valley residents. I'd be happy to do that.
And you'd include us on the answer on the way back too? Yeah, great. Madam Clerk?
Your Worship, once I receive a signed copy of the letter, I can make sure I get a copy of it to Mr. Pompili, and then it can be placed on a council agenda.
Great. Okay, I have Councillor Peters. Did I have your hand?
You did. I just sort of did a quickie, but
I got it. Right.
Thanks,
that
Your Worship.
peripheral vision.
My question is a procedural question, and I'm challenged as to how we know we're going to a tribunal hearing. We got issues in front of us. Knowing that a tribunal hearing is a quasi-judicial body, I have, no offense to the neighbors in the Shaw Valley group, but I've felt some reluctance in talking to them because it's like a court of law that we're going into, and even in answer to Councillor Kohler's question that he just asked, are we painting ourselves further into a corner, knowing that we're ultimately going before a quasi-judicial body? And that is my question procedurally. How do we talk about a lot of these things when somebody else is going to be making a decision?
Sure, through you, Mr. Bell, I'll try. The appeals that are before the tribunal, really, they relate to the zoning only, the zoning of the blocks and the lots. Within the McGregor farm, they don't relate to these land transfers that are before you. They don't relate to the road alignment. They're separate matters. So you could speak to one without the other. I would be leery of talking about the appeals specifically. Council has sided with the residents in terms of refusing the zoning for the two high-density blocks. But the matters are separate.
Councillor Baldwin-Sands, then Councillor Clark.
Thank you. I've had several previously asked questions on, not just on behalf of the residents, but for myself, and some of these at meetings that we've had with the residents prior to the tribunal. And I still haven't received a satisfactory answer for those. If I could, I'll ask those questions again tonight. Maybe Mr. Pompelli can fill them in. Is the city satisfied with the groundwater study? Is the city satisfied with the species at risk with this new configuration? And the natural heritage lands, the destruction of any trees or any natural habitat with this new rerouting. And in addition, with this new rerouting, is the new traffic that's going to be coming through Shaw Valley through this servicing going to be impacted in any way? Those are my questions.
Mr. Pompilli, did you want to answer that, or under the guidance you just gave us, is this an area we can talk about?
Well, I can certainly, through Mr. Mayor, I can certainly attempt to answer, provide an answer to the best of my knowledge. And if I miss things out, Mr. Bachman might be able to back me up. But as far as is the city satisfied with the updated studies or letter reports that we've received since draft approval with regards to groundwater species at risk and natural heritage and transportation, I believe were the questions. The answer to that is yes. What's been submitted, we've reviewed, we've accepted, and those do form part of what's in the subdivision agreements or the agreements that are in place that we're utilizing going forward. Is there anything else I'm missing? Those reports are they've been recently received, recently accepted. We will make those available. We'll post those on the website so that everybody could see them, as we've done with every other report that's been submitted and received for this subdivision.
Councillor Baldwin-Sands, supplementary or no? Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Your Worship. The way I viewed it, this road and the infrastructure with the sewers, regardless of the density of the project, have to be there. We've always going to have a road there, and all we've done is moved it over so it's less in the gully, disrupting less and moving it over. So I have no problem moving forward with the report tonight and doing it tonight. We've always needed a road, and we've always had a responsibility to make sure the sewer crosses Southdale Road to get over to the Central Elgin project. And so I said, let's get it done.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. Well, we all had the letter from the group, and they expressed a lot of concern. And Mr. Pompilier said here tonight that there's a lot of inaccuracy to the report. So we've got two different opinions on either side. So do we need to know the answers before we move forward tonight on this? Or as Councilor Wookie said, maybe we should defer it so we can clarify these answers. I'm just not sure which direction we need to go. Do we need to know the answers? Or do we continue on and start doing the construction on the road? So if it's inaccurate, I'd like to know. If it's the truth, I'd like to know that too. So anyway, thank you.
I think as Mr. Pompilio said, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Lou, but one is one thing, as Councillor Clark just said, one is about the realignment of the road. The other is where we are with the tribunal on the zoning application. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship. And all I can say is I don't believe that anything that's in the report should be any cause for delay. Or that report, I apologize, that letter that was submitted. The letter that was submitted identified some of the issues that the area residents are still expressing. Some of them were expressed by Councillor tonight in her question with regards to some of the studies. The other were about comments from a school board and the health unit, why they haven't been shared. The reason they haven't been shared is because we never received any comments from either body. So none of, in my opinion, none of what was in the letter that was submitted today should be any cause for deferring or not making a decision tonight on the road alignment and the reports before you this evening.
Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. So through to Mr. Pompier. So these are two separate issues. Is this what you're saying? Do the alignment has no effect on the proposed or the new buildings there. So this is something that needs to be done, irregardless of what we say about the proposed apartments.
The issue with the through you, Mr. Mayor, the issue with the road alignment and the issues before the land tribunal are two separate matters. Yeah.
Councillor Kohler.
Sorry, I agree with Councillor Wookie. I don't see a huge need to proceed with this right away. And if it just shows good faith that hopefully the signed letter comes in tomorrow, so it can be put on a future agenda and we can, have staff can have the opportunity to put their comments towards that letter, and then we have that and then make that decision at a future date. But, even looking at the letter that here we are looking at voting on it, they're saying that the work's already proceeding. So I'm not sure if that's true that the work's already proceeding and the vote's on here tonight, but that opportunity might be here to air all those comments out that are in the letter at a future meeting, and we can make the decision later on in good faith.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Wookie.
Thank you, Worship. I want to stress that my belief is that saying no to this does not impact the realignment of the road and the process of construction starting. It's simply about getting rid of surplus land. Like, I know that we're committed to doing this. I get that totally. To me, I thought this report was just about getting rid of surplus land. Or am I wrong? If I'm wrong, then I'd appreciate being told that. Thank you.
Mr. Pompilli, be careful telling Councillor Wookie he's wrong. Okay.
Through your worship. No, I don't want to say that you're wrong. The report before you right now, the matter before you is dealing with the surplus land. That's the report that we're dealing with tonight. Later on in the agenda, there's the bylaws that deal with the agreements. So they're same but different matters. But the matter before you this evening is for surplus land. This item here is dealing with surplus land. Yep. And as far as I just want to clarify, I offered up to provide a response to a written response to the letter that the residents have provided. I don't see that that's a reason for delaying a decision here tonight. But again, that'll be up to council. There was nothing in that letter, in my opinion, in the opinion of staff that have reviewed it as well, that should have any impact on this matter of dealing with the surplus land and also dealing with the bylaws later on this evening. But I would just offered to provide just to clear some of the air with some of those comments that were in that letter, because as staff, we've heard that, unfortunately, that the accusations made against staff, the claims made against staff, and I'd love an opportunity to provide a response to that. But it's a separate matter than the matters before you this evening.
Further discussion or comment? Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. So under the third part, where it says council directs undertake administration to sell part 3, part 9, and part 12 to a sole source. Do we have any idea, one, how much we're going to make when we sell it, and two, what are they planning on doing with the land? Is there any direction on that?
Nathan?
Through your worship to Council Herbert. Because it's a nominal transaction fee in exchange of lands for the right of way, it's a nominal fee, like for these types of transactions, like $2 type of thing, $2 to do it. So that's the whole transaction in and of itself. So since we are getting lands in return.
Councillor Clark, did I see your hand?
Thank you, Your Worship. If this wasn't an election year, I think we would have voted on this about a half an hour ago. I don't understand the discussion. I don't understand the debate. It's a swapping of land to move the road allowance that we've already approved. I don't understand why we're still talking about it.
Well, if I get no answer to this question, any further questions or comments, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of this report? I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4, 5. That is carried. Next item. Sorry, next item.
Your Worship, that concludes the items under corporate governance, unless there are any further items from the members. Council will now reconvene into regular session. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of Council and Committee of the Whole, as recorded in the minutes of this date, be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Burgess.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No reports of committees this evening. We'll now move into petitions and communications. First item is a request for a proclamation. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim May the 14th, 2022 as Apraxia Awareness Day in the City of St. Thomas. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Rimo.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next item is a request for proclamation and flag raising from the St. Thomas Municipal Accessibility Advisory Committee. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim May 29th to June 4th, 2022 as National Accessibility Week in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim June 1st, 2022 as Red Shirt Day in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the accessibility flag be flown at City Hall from May 29th to June 4th, 2022, and further that a flag raising ceremony be held at City Hall on May 30th, 2022 at 10 a.m. Moved by Councillor Burgess, seconded by Councillor Peters.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next item relates to requests from the St. Anne's Community Festival. I have a motion that Council authorize the St. Anne's Community Festival to be held from June 1st to 4th, 2022 on the parish grounds, and further that the St. Anne's Community Festival be declared a municipally significant event, and further that there is no objection to the proposed extended licensed area, and further that the request for the use of the parking lot at the St. Thomas Elgin Memorial Center for parking of recreational vehicles and travel trailers by workers be referred to the Parks, Recreation, and Property Management Department. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? It's carried.
Next item is a letter received from Marilee Lee regarding requesting support of a resolution to repeal Bill 124, protecting a sustainable public sector for future generations. Next item is a copy of a letter addressed to Prime Minister Trudeau regarding, from the Municipality of Grey Highlands regarding fair market value threshold for HST rebates on homes. The last item under petitions is a letter received from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs regarding the status of emergency orders relating to COVID-19 under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act and the Reopening Ontario Act 2020. Your Worship, unless there are any further items of petition or communication from the members.
Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Thank you. I would like to announce that the Express Iron Spikes under 14 women's volleyball team won the silver medal at the provincial championships this past weekend. They are coached by Laura Reed, and they represent all across the city of St. Thomas and surrounding areas in the age of under 14 years of age. And we are very proud of their accomplishments and very, very pleased to make the announcement of their great achievement on the weekend. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councillor Baldwin-Sands. Congratulations from all of council to them. Further items? Councillor Herbert, did I see your hand? No? Councillor Clark then.
You just like to congratulate the local Chamber of Commerce that had their Impact Awards last week, and a number of small businesses and actually a couple service groups were recognized, and the public could go to the website of the Chamber to see the award winners. So congratulations on a well-run event, and to all the winners. Thanks.
Further comments or questions? Seeing none. Councillor Baldwin-Sands, I'm sorry, you're back.
I just have a reminder that Earth Day is April the 22nd. Would you like to make your announcement again?
Yes, I would. Thank you for reminding me. We've been talking this up a lot until snow hit yesterday, made it a little hard to go out and get litter. We're trying to use all of Earth Week, including all of this weekend, and please forgive us, but we're going to use a couple more weeks following this to do neighborhood cleanups, community cleanups, service club cleanups, schools cleanups. We have all the gloves and garbage bags you would ever want in the mayor's office for your group. And I was there today when 2 or 3 groups came and picked up all their supplies. So although they had canceled their plan to go out tonight with the snow on the ground, so they're going out next Monday night, next Tuesday night to do cleanups. So thank you, Councillor Baldwin-Sands, for reminding us all that this is Earth Week. Earth Day on Friday, and we really would love to see as many of us involved and as many groups in town involved as can be. Simply go on to our website, and there's a form to fill out, or call Heather in the mayor's office, and she'll help you with that and get you the supplies you need. There may even be some free burgers with you if you get a large enough group out there picking up trash. So we'll be happy to help you, and we'll keep talking about it, and we'll even try and do it the next couple of weeks too, to see as the weather abates that we can get St. Thomas really shiny. Thanks. My turn to talk. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none?
Your Worship, we'll now move into unfinished business. Nothing on the agenda at this time unless there are any items from the members. Seeing none, we'll move into new business. Item of new business this evening relates to electronic participation at council and committee meetings. I have motion that report CC 0922 regarding electronic participation at council and committee meetings be received for information, and further that procedural bylaw 110-82 be amended to allow electronic participation at council and committee meetings. Moved by Councillor Reimels, seconded by Councillor Burgess.
Great. Discussion or comment on the report? Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Thank you. I think this is absolutely necessary. My advocacy is behind the teleconferencing that we are doing for the Health Recruitment Committee, which is a joint committee with the city and the county. We have been doing it by teleconference, considering the travel distance of some of our representatives. We also have 2 very busy doctors that are on this committee. We also have hospital administration, 2 CAOs, one from the city, one from the county, as well as our clerical staff. We are able to cover our monthly agenda and achieve quorum. And that has been something that this committee has, because of that, it's been allowing our excellent health recruiter to get the things done required on a month-to-month basis. And I strongly advocate and hope that my fellow councillors support this motion going forward. Thank you.
Councillor Peters.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'm supportive of this. I just want to, in reading the report, and I'm away on holidays and there's a council meeting, I would be able to Zoom in to the meeting and be, have the ability to vote, have the ability to speak? Or is that another step beyond what's in front of us tonight to allow for something like that?
It's my understanding if we pass this report tonight, that is allowed. That if you are not here but you're Zooming in, you can be a member of quorum and voting on issues. Councillor Herbert, and then Councillor Reimel.
Yep, thank you, Worship. Well, I certainly support the Zoom, but I'm going to reminisce here for a minute. But when I first came on council, I had to come to the council chamber, and it gave me an opportunity to interact with the councillors. I built that relationship, and I hope they built that relationship with me. The way this looks, and that's the cornerstone of a good council. I think over the years, we've made a pretty good team. We've had our ups and downs, but we're on site. We can see each other and we can talk and sort things out. The way it is here now, correct me if I'm wrong, you'd have no idea who's coming to council. You could come here next week and there'd be 3 people show up or 2 people show up. It could be anybody show up. Or you may be here by yourself, Your Worship, because we could all Zoom in. So to me, a few restrictions should be to me, if I'm away on business, if I'm on vacation, and if I wish to Zoom in, I can do that. But I think, to me, all these other things are off the table. We allow the Zoom for specific reasons, not just because, well, I'm not going to council tonight, I'll just sit home. I want to build the relationship with the councillors, and that's how it's done. On site, you're able to talk. So, but I do appreciate the effort. I mean, I was the one when I was away for 2 weeks, I said I love to Zoom in, and I Zoomed in. But any other time I come to the council chambers because I want to interact with the councillors. I want to know them. We make a better team when we do that. You could start the year next week and have no one show up in the council chamber. You're by yourself. And we're all Zooming. We don't interact with each other very well when we Zoom. I mean, we can blacken the screen. Nobody's even know what we're doing. So I think the voter expects us to at least be visible to them and be on site. And that's the expectation in my mind. So I would prefer able to Zoom, but take all these things out, specific reasons only, vacation, business, and if there's a specific thing, like Councillor Sands said, they have people for recruitment, fine, I don't have a problem with that. So anyway, I would probably vote against the way it is tonight, but I wanted to support the Zoom. I think it's important to be able to do that with a couple of suggestions I've made. So anyway, that's just my thought. I just think we're a better team when I can see you, I can talk to you, and things just go better that way. Instead of, you could have a whole council be elected and they never come in the council chamber. They don't even know each other except come to a council meeting on Zoom. So just my thoughts. So I just wanted to throw it out, but I will vote against this, but I would support the Zoom with certain restrictions. Thank you.
Councillor Reimel.
I can certainly see, instances where you would Zoom. I would hope it would be the exception rather than someone would start their term and always Zoom in. And just from an HR perspective, I would hope too, if you're on vacation, you take your vacation, and there's not an expectation that if you're on vacation that you're going to Zoom in. That shouldn't be an automatic thing, because you're going to take your iPad and you're going to take, check the agenda. So I would hope people, if they were on vacation, would enjoy that time and take a break. But there are times that say, even with this COVID experience we've had in the last 2 years, that sometimes, you may be isolated. You myself may not be sick, but someone in your family member may be, so you need to isolate, so you don't want to come into council. So there certainly are occasions where, a Zoom would be handy, but I would hope that someone would look at it as on an exceptional basis and not the norm, that would be how they would always address their council attendance.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Kohler?
I guess I'll just put comment, because I agree with what Councillor Reimel said, and I think it would be the exception, but it also gives some lenience if something did come up and we had to have an emergency meeting right then and there, people would be able to Zoom in for that. And I think at the end of the day, we're all held accountable to the electorate. And if people are going to choose to zoom in on a regular basis, I guess the public would have their choice at that time. And I don't see that, especially from this council, but I do see the opportunity, and right in the report, it talks about staff being sick or council being sick, but this gives the opportunity where if that does happen, where people could zoom in and not potentially put others at risk.
Further questions or comments? If I might add, we just went through 2 years of using Zoom as our only means of meeting as a council. I think we met once in person over that whole period of time, and nobody took advantage of it. We were there, we did our work. Proud of this council, of what we're able to accomplish during that period of time. I agree with what Councillor Kohler just said. I don't see anybody abusing it, but it wouldn't be for the mayor to judge it anyway. It would be for the people, the voters to judge whether they think their councillor is doing, any of the members around this table, including the mayor, doing the job they're supposed to do. So I like the report as it's written. You asked me a question, Councillor Herbert, what would I do if I was the only one here one night? Well, I would make sure that the next week wasn't that way. I would have a good conversation with each of the other people. But I'm not out there checking notes from parents as to whether you had an absence or not. This is it's a job you ran for, and we're willing to do. So I will be voting for the report tonight. And if we find difficulties with the electronic version of our hybrid model of council in the years to come, we can talk about it as a council and come up with what the solutions may be, whether we're tracking attendance on electronic or in-person meetings. But right now, this is just, let's leave this as an opportunity for us, because it leaves the opportunity for us to meet by Zoom, but certainly for the committees of council, as Councillor Baldwin-Sands has stated. Some of them, it's a lot easier to meet by Zoom, and this gives them back that permission also. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, on the report, those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, and duly noted and carried. Next item.
Next order of business are the bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Reimel.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Reimel, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on the the order and proceedings of the council of the corporation of the city of St. Thomas, the conduct of its members, and the calling of meetings. This relates to electronic participation.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That item carries. Next item, please.
Third bylaw is a bylaw to authorize mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of corporation to a certain agreement between the city 2561603 Ontario Limited, 1611905 Ontario Limited, Shawside Development Limited, and the Corporation of the Municipality of Central Elgin. This relates to cost sharing and land exchange for the area at Shaw Valley Drive.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? That item carries. Next item, please.
Fourth and final bylaw is a bylaw to assume certain lands as part of the public highway known as Shaw Valley Drive. Those parts are 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, and 13 on reference plan 11R 10863 and block 17 on registered plan 11M.
Opposed? That item carries. I rise and report the successful passing of the 4 bylaws.
Your worship, I have a motion by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Reimel, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the 4 bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No public notices or notices of motion this evening, Your Worship. Acquisition and disposition of land. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Wookie.
Okay, to those watching at home or streaming along with us tonight, that is the end of our open meeting. And when we vote for this, we'll then go into closed session. We won't be coming back to public except to adjourn our meeting for this evening. So thank you very much for watching tonight. Questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? We are in closed session.